What do you mean by an audio studio?
Like if you're doing voiceover only,
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
or like let's say you wanted to shoot something like a vlog.
I don't.
Welcome everyone to Inside Copy and Art, the podcast. We haven't been here for a while, mostly because we were in the process of upgrading our space. So if it's been a minute since you've heard from us, that's the reason. So I'm happy to say we're in our new podcast studio here in the heart of White Plains, New York. And I have the pleasure of being joined today by Nate Gabler. He is a supervising writer here. He's been with us a couple of years. And the team came to me wanting to kick off this season with a focus on the best part of copy and art. So I know what the best part of copy and art is, but I don't know if you do. It's most certainly the people. And Nate is no exception. He has a ridiculously cool story in terms of career, how he got here at Copy and Art, even like how he started with us. So I thought it would be great to sit and talk. It's nice for you guys to know like our clients and kind of some of their agendas and what they're working on. But I think, what might be even as important or more important is who we are as an agency, and the fabric that makes us up is our people. So welcome, Nate.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about being the inaugural guest in the new office, or that intro. I guess that's a little flattering, but thank you.
You're welcome.
Good to be here.
You are very, very humble all the time, and you usually get very uncomfortable whenever given a compliment.
Yeah. I don't have anything else to say there.
He's like, is there a question there?
Yeah, I don't think that was a question.
So, Nate, you've been with us a couple of years. You have a really cool, past. Tell me a little bit about, and tell our audience a little bit about what led you to Copy and Art.
Well, I was at a point in my life, early pandemic, where I was kind of seeking a new career path, and I didn't really know what that was. So I was kind of broadly doing the LinkedIn search, the Indeed search, the what the heck do I want to do with my life search. And I didn't actually stumble upon Copy and Art through a LinkedIn job search or an Indeed job search. It was more of finding other creative agencies with copywriter jobs in the healthcare field, and then kind of Googling agencies in that way, and kind of going through websites to find job offers. And that's kind of how I discovered Copy and Art, actually.
Cool. Yeah, I remember so Christina and I had been talking about how we were in desperate need of a copywriter with your talent. We didn't know it was you, but who had some sort of either a love of healthcare or medicine, and a writer. And so those things are, it's not, healthcare isn't all we do, but it seemed to be what we needed. And I came across your email, but you weren't in the area. So tell us a little bit about where you were situated in your life and where you were living and how kind of that came to be.
I don't actually even remember sending you an email. I kind of thought it was an online job application. So that's interesting.
I mean, it might have been.
Yeah, no idea. But I, at the time, was living in Oxford, Mississippi, which is where Ole Miss is, the school. I was working for Sports Illustrated as a SEC football and a few other things reporter. So doing full-time journalism type writing, which is really fun and also kind of the worst career path ever, because there's not a ton of room for improvement and growth, and you don't actually get paid a lot. And yeah, it's not great as a career path, journalism as a whole.
But it was
kind
fun.
of an industry that hasn't evolved with the times nearly as well as it should have. But yeah, no, I was having a great time. I was 25, 26, traveling a bunch, but I had recently gotten engaged. There was a pandemic starting, and I was asked to go from making very little money to making very, very little money.
Right.
And I was like,
no, thanks.
No,
Let me think about that.
I don't want to do that. So more likely it was, yeah, sure. And I'm going to start looking for jobs now.
Yeah.
But I also happen to have a undergraduate degree from Vanderbilt in molecular and cellular neurobiology. So that's
Yeah.
kind of,
So maybe
yeah.
that wasn't the perfect writing for you with sports, but
Yeah, no, I mean, so I graduated college in 2016 and moved to California where I was working in a lab at UCSF, like a wet lab. I thought I wanted to be a doctor, do the whole med school thing. So I was taking the gap year, doing some research, applying to med school, doing all that fun stuff. Took the MCAT, did fine, got into med school, and I was like, I don't want to freaking do this. Like, I don't want to do this for like 8 years.
yeah.
So I was kind of trying 22, 23, living in San Francisco, which is a cool place to live, but I
Sure.
didn't really want to live there forever, and I kind of knew that at the time. But I don't know. I kind of had like a bit of a midlife crisis in your like early 20s, which doesn't make any sense.
Oh.
But
Okay.
I went
You guys
to
heard that right? Okay.
what?
No.
Okay.
Midlife crisis. That's one. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's not actually midlife crisis. It doesn't make sense. I hope to live past 45. That would be ideal.
Yes,
But-
please.
Yeah. So, and I was trying to figure out what the heck I wanted to do for the rest of my life, and I just out of the blue decided to go to journalism school, and I got a quick master's degree in Arizona, and that's kind of what led me to eventually working for Sports Illustrated down in the South. But I kind of realized that wasn't really what I wanted to do forever, and just kind of looking at my background in the sciences, but also being a writer and really enjoying that part of it. I was just trying to figure out what the heck to do with that. It's not exactly a normal set of skills, but once I kind of discovered the advertising kind of world and that maybe that could be an option, I was just kind of just like out there shooting my shot on the internet and hoping someone would email me back.
And I did.
You did.
Yeah.
I don't know what type of beverage you were drinking that night when you decided
Well,
to email
you know,
me back, but you
probably
did.
chamomile tea
Yes.
just for the record.
Or water.
or water
Or
or,
water.
seltzer with lime.
Yes.
Just seltzer. No, I think actually, interestingly enough, so your background is like perfect for like who we are, right? There's no way for you to know that. I saw your resume and was like, yes, except he's in Mississippi. And so we are a little different in that we're here together a lot of the time. And so I was like, that's not going to work but that experience is outstanding. And then I think you interviewed with Christina and she was like, oh yeah, you want to meet him. And then I did. And then I was like, oh, and you're like, maybe I'll move. And I'm like, oh, okay. And long story short, you came to join us and you've been on a pretty fast track, doing very, very well. So tell me, how do you feel like your experience kind of lends itself to what you do here and then like how you train your team as they come in?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously every marketing agency is looking for a sports writer, right? So that worked.
Made perfect sense.
Yeah, it worked seamlessly. No, I had always enjoyed the research element of the job. I had always enjoyed, obviously, the writing, but kind of getting back into kind of a little more of the hard sciences was something I was interested in doing, but without kind of losing all of the writing side of things. So obviously here at Copy and Art, we do a lot of work with pharma, with hospitals, with kind of all over the healthcare spectrum. So just the ability to continue to do writing, which, as I said, was something I was like growing very fond of, but also blending that with some like sciences skills that I had kind of made it a good fit.
Made sense.
Yeah.
So that's cool. And that makes perfect sense for like why you're such a good fit here. Now we're in a new space, and one of my favorite things that I found recently, I found you on our Peloton in the Wellness Suite. So there's a whole other side of you which is the personal side. So tell me a little bit about like what you enjoy doing when you're not at Copy and Art. I know you're a runner.
Yeah.
But you know, you kind of get on that Peloton, you have another life. Tell the audience a little bit about that side of you.
Yeah, I had never actually been on a Peloton until about 2 weeks ago. I currently have a somewhat bad case of what I think is called patellotibial tendonitis or whatever. It's a tendon that goes up the inside of your ankle, and it hurts.
Okay.
But I'm wearing a boot and cool, but I can bike, and that doesn't hurt. So I am currently training for the Philadelphia Marathon. That's something that's kind of always been something that I did, at least for the last, 15 years. Not that I ran a marathon every year. I've only done 2. But it's
Only
something
2.
that I enjoy.
Only 2.
Yeah, only 2.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. It helps me kind of rewind, unplug, and I don't know.
When is that marathon?
Mid-November. It's either a week or 2 before Thanksgiving.
Wait, this year?
Yeah.
Okay. Because you're wearing a boot right now. If I was doing a marathon, I'd have to train for 3 years.
Well, I did 18 miles 2
Thank you
weeks
for not
ago.
taking the joke. I mean, you could have.
I don't know where to go with that. I'm sorry. Yes, I have a boot on.
Yeah, you did.
It's only, what's today? It's
Thanks for not.
what month is it? It's September 22nd. So that's still 2 months from now. I'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So
What do you do to unplug when you're not here, when you're not working 60 hours a week growing copy and art? What are you doing?
So on the health side, I love Orange Theory. I'm trying to get you to a class with me, so you know that.
Yeah, I'm a little
You're
skeptical there. Not that it doesn't work for people. I just
So his words exactly
sounds
were
terrible.
Yeah, so not my thing, but okay. What I like about that is that it's every class has a little weight training, some rowing, which is kind of hard and much harder than it looks, and then running. So I've been doing that for about a year. I really enjoy it, and it's hard. It's really hard. So it helps with some of the mindset stuff that I have to work on running a business today here in New York. I love reading, hanging out with my 3 kids.
What's your favorite book?
Favorite book? Oh, that's hard. I don't know.
Flipped the interview around now. Now I'm interviewing you. How about that?
You know what? I'm not mad at you. I don't know if I have a favorite book. I'm reading right now. I'm reading Can't Hurt Me, David Goggins, who has a really outstanding story of overcoming, and he's actually I want to say he's an ultra marathoner. I might be thinking of Robin Arzon, but I believe he's done. I mean, he's a Navy SEAL, and it's just he had this crazy story where he was crazy overweight, and there weren't too many Navy SEALs that were African American, and he, the recruiter said, you might, I think there were only 36 ever, and he was like, well, maybe I could be 37, and it started this journey, and now he's I think he's been dubbed the strongest man in the world, and so anyway, he has this really cool story, so I'm reading that right now. I read a lot. I think it's but I don't read like entertainment. I read anything that's going to make me smarter in business, better as an employer. That's all I do. No junk.
I actually kind of like that. I'm the similar ways in books that I read. I kind of like to learn something or take something away from it. But when I watch television, I just want total crap.
Then junk? Okay,
yeah,
what's your
throw
favorite?
junk at me there.
What's your junk show?
My junk show, it's Sunny. Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
What is that?
You've never heard? It's been on the air for 17 years. It's a comedy about just idiots.
It's been around for
that
17
own a bar
years
in Philadelphia.
Have you guys heard about? Okay, so we got a yes and a no.
Okay, Vanessa, who's back here, is how old are you? 22. So it's been around for most of your life. Misa and I are the same age, late 20s. So that checks out.
Calling people out on age. See, that wasn't me.
I don't think I'm calling anybody out.
No. This is how Nate gauges age. He's young, old, or old.
I consider myself old though. Walking around in a boot these days. You don't do that when you're 22.
Well, I got to tell you, the other day you color coordinated with your shirt, and that was pretty cool.
Yes,
and you
that
said
was
it
clearly very intentional. Yes.
Yes,
that was planned.
He got a lot of fashion points in the office for that. So let's see. What else do you think our audience should know about Nate Gabler?
I have no idea. This is a blindsided question. Most of these we prepared for.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's true.
This is when you're gonna have to cut at me, so I don't know what the hell to say here.
Well, no. Okay, so here. I think this is a good one.
What do I do with my life? I don't know. I'm here.
So I'll give you.
I like to cook.
Do you?
That's okay. Well, we're recording again, Misa, just for future use purpose. I've recently started really enjoying cooking. Like, I don't have to do it every day, and if I'm forced to do it every day, that would probably suck. But I got a smoker for Christmas. That's something that I'm trying to figure out. That's been cool. I have grown to like cooking as an adult. I don't know.
What's your favorite cuisine, or what got you into it?
Well, my favorite meal, period, is duck confit, which is a French duck dish.
Yes.
I don't know if you've ever had that before. It's crispy on the outside, very tender on the inside. I haven't tried to make that yet. I feel like I'm probably going to leave that one up to the professionals, but...
You want to continue to enjoy it, yes?
Yes, exactly.
No, I'm sure you can figure it out.
I did a brisket a month ago in the smoker, a full, 15-pounder that came out really well. And that's I grew up in Texas a little bit, so I lived there for 7 years as a kid. So that's the food staple in Texas is brisket. So
I didn't see
learning to do that would be kind of cool.
So go down the line of states or places you've lived.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good one. 10 is the number.
10 is the number.
Yeah, Connecticut. Well, I live in Connecticut and commute to White Plains, so I guess that. Do I get to count New York too? I don't live here.
No,
so
you don't live here.
I was born in Virginia.
No matter how hard you work, you don't actually live in the office.
I was here on Saturday. I came into the office on Saturday.
But not because of work.
No.
Just for you folks.
I was born in Virginia. I've lived in order in North Carolina, Texas, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Maryland, California, Arizona, Mississippi, and now Connecticut. Yeah. I almost forgot one there. I was like, this is...
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So... I know when I first moved up here, or was it when I was visiting? I think it was when I first moved here. We went to lunch one day. We were in an old office space, and I remember we were actually joking about this the other day. You had mentioned to me that you were kind of nervous to hire me because I think your quote was, "You're kind of a nomad." So I was like, I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. You know, as an adult, this is the longest I've ever had one job.
Well, I think you're home. But that's just my personal opinion. I might be biased. One of the hardest parts of my job is, I could hire anybody, right? I mean, in theory. But you find talent, and then it's do you have staying power, right? I don't it's hard enough to run a business and then to make people really strong. And then when you're there's fear that they're just going to bolt immediately, then you're don't make the investment. There are people who have the thing where they're a little bit more they like commitment. And then there are people who are nope, I'm going to bounce. So, philosophically, a leadership team avoids those people. Just in theory, if that's your jam, which is cool, and you get it, I get it. I didn't always own copy and art. Then it's just not the place for you. So everything about you was perfect, except I'm this he bounces quite a bit, and sometimes that's who you are, and sometimes that's situational. But the truth is, there's no guarantees with anything. So I'm glad that you came and you stayed, and tell me what you're thinking about. So we're in the new space. You have a team under you now. You're growing. The agency's growing. We're in our ribbon cutting is next month. Tell us what you've seen since you joined Copy and Art in terms of growth and kind of how you see us growing in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I got here and we were still in the old office space on the other side of White Plains, which I'm sure at one point you were super stoked about that. I don't know, 7 years ago or so when you guys moved into that space out of your literal house. And just comparing that space that we were in at the time, and I don't know, there were days in the old office that it was really just like myself and Christina and Laura and maybe like Max and Misa. I mean, it could have been, there could have been days where there was like literally 3 people in the office, and like that was cool because we were still just like getting it done and building and growing. Sorry, I don't know if I don't know if I can say that.
You can say it.
But just seeing how quickly, like 2 years ago we were there, and I know you guys were there for a lot longer than I was, but seeing how quickly it progressed from that to, I mean, we're on the 14th floor in this beautiful space that, gosh, I mean, you know the square footage, what is it, 5
7,
times bigger than the old space?
Sure feels like it.
Is it not? It feels like it. It seems like it. I'm actually surprised it's not. But yeah, no, it literally feels like it's 5 times bigger. Looking over White Plains, and it's like there's obviously like that doesn't just happen. Like that obviously is like not just a big financial commitment, but like commitment to people and growing a business. Sure. And I mean, just the number of people that are in and out of here, not just like clients and potential clients, but it's new employees. It's people coming in for interviews all the time. Like there's like that stuff all happens for a reason.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when you have a strong team, like eventually the people will figure out that you're exceptional at what you do. And when we went into the previous space, it was about 3,000 square feet. There were 3 employees at the time, and only 1 was in New York. So that was a big leap then. I thought that was big, moving in here. But there was a little bit of proof of concept there because I only signed a 3-year lease. Because I was like, I don't know what's going to happen here. I don't want to be locked. Mm-hmm. And then within about 9 months, we stabilized. And then at the end of that lease, we were full. And then it was just like, all right, it's time to move. You can make it lateral or you can make it gigantic. And, you know, I think everybody agreed, like, this is where we're going. And, you know, we haven't even had our ribbon cutting yet. And, you know, it's flourishing and people are coming in. And now we're thinking about new spaces to take up and new footprints in different areas, which is outstanding. But I think it's because of the hard work, you know, of the team. Like, it's different. We had actually 2 clients in yesterday, but one of them commented on, he was just like, and he works for one of the biggest names in advertising, period. And I won't name drop, but he's like, wow. He's like, I've worked at agencies for a long time. He was like, he said the kind of what you built here in terms of like for the functionality, but also the coolness factor is way high. He's like, but the thing that I tell you should probably be most proud of, he's like, these people. He was like, they're just sharp. And they were like laughing at the cafe, grabbing a coffee. And like, he's like, you just don't see that these days. And it's like the energy of the place. And I'm like, yeah, it's probably what I'm proudest of. But that's contagious. Smart people doing great work.
Yeah, and I think some of that is kind of like we talked about with myself personally, but it is the kind of like outside the box creative hiring practices, because I don't know, we hear you, like we being like myself and the other writers and like the mid-level management team. I don't know if that's a word.
Yeah,
but
it is.
We always hear you and Christina are like, oh, it's so hard to find the right people. And in my mind, I'm like, yeah, but there's like, we're in Westchester. There's like literally thousands or millions of like marketing and communications majors out there that could walk in here and probably do this job. So like, is it really that hard? I don't know. But like, that's why I don't do your job. I know it's not that easy, but I kind of want it to be sometimes.
I want it to be too. I think sometimes it's like, we say we hire an aptitude and attitude. And aptitude I can find. Attitude and like the number one thing we look for here is coachability. Irrespective of whether you're coming in as a vice president, like we just hired 2 vice presidents, or if you're coming in straight out of college. It's coachability because at some point, if I hire just on skill set, that person who has the skills maybe even has 5 years in advertising. Whoa. They come in, they're here. Somebody has no experience here. This person thinks they know it all. So they're going to stay right here. This person's coachable. They know nothing when they come in, but they're going to keep learning. and they're going to take a class, and they're going to watch TED Talk, and they're going to come in and ask their leaders what they can do better. And before you know it, that person who has no experience, they're completely overshadowing the person who had 5 years experience. Because when you're coachable, you're going to keep growing. And no matter, so talent, important, not as important as coachability, because talented people often rely on their talent and then they don't put in the work. Where coachable people might come in at a 2 or 3, but within a couple of years, they're getting promoted and promoted and promoted because they have the right set. I'm convinced that despite how well the company's doing, and we're going to keep growing, and I wasn't the smartest kid at Stony Brook or at MCNY in my MBA, but I'm going to outwork the competition. So you might be smarter, you might have gone to a better school, but hard work trumps talent every day of the week. So our creative hiring practices have more to do with like seeing the human and knowing what we want and need as leadership here. And like I was telling this guy from the big agency yesterday, I'd rather hire them and train them than hire somebody who was doing it for 5 years and thinks they know it all. Because we do have a different way of, like, we have a rigorous creative review here.
Yeah.
You work for big agencies. Do they have that crazy rigorous creative review?
No, I used to literally be able to write whatever the hell I wanted to without having to pass it by anyone and push publish, which is a terrible practice. Like, that should never happen, but that's what was happening. I do like, I really enjoy how someone can come in here, and I was talking to a new hire earlier this week, actually, a writer, a junior writer. She's 23, I think. It's 1 year removed from college, and it's like her first agency job. And we were talking about like the development side of things. And like, I know when I came in, you and Christina put a big emphasis on making sure we're doing like the sort of professional development stuff, like at least once a month. And there, you guys have like a real, like literal, like playbook to it almost. Like there is a game plan to how you guys want to not just train people, but kind of make sure that they're getting the right development for themselves, not just what's good for the company too.
100%. I just held a development meeting today to one of my direct reports, and when the person heard that, like, they're telling me where they want to be in a year, and then they're telling me where they want to be in 5 years, I said, so fast trackers here could have a pretty nice title in 5 years. You work it, you really can. But you're going to tell me where we're going, right? Because it's your career, not my career. I'm just going to, you're going to set your development plan, and then my job is to be your wingman. So how do I get you to where you want to be? As long as that aligns with like the business and where we are. And what we have found is, just a really nice track record with that. But I was a really ambitious employee. And where I was in the big agencies, I was held down by people who were, let's say, hired around the same time. I was put on their track. I was put on the slowest track because it was almost like, well, I can't promote you because I hired you and Mary isn't a real person at the same time, and Mary's not ready. And that never made sense to me.
No.
Because I'm not Mary. And so what I figured out is if I'm ever in a position to hire or I have my own thing going, I'm going to make sure that people rise at their own pace and based on the effort they put in and the success they see, and not some arbitrary time period or...
Yeah, I mean, that's totally silly. Like, maybe that's good for Mary, but it's not just like, it's holding you back, but wouldn't that also be like holding the company back too? Like, it's kind of silly. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I think, they're more interested in other things, and I can't speak for what it is now, but I can tell you that the customized development plan is, I think, something that sticks here very well. It serves first the employees, which is what our goal is, and then it serves the business, because then you got people who are actually working towards something bigger than what they have today, which is the goal. Anybody can come and do the same thing every day. If that's your jam, you're in the wrong spot. But people who like can see. Maybe they have something bigger on their horizon. Maybe they want to buy a house or a new car or whatever it is. And they realize, like, I'm going to have to get to work. There's a path here, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I had no idea what I wanted when I got here. No idea. I was just trying to not drown at that point and just, like, figure it out. And, I mean, like, the imposter syndrome thing is real. Like, that is, I feel like everyone kind of has that to a degree, even when you've been in, like, a position for a while. Like, do you still have that?
So it's interesting because I was asked on one of the things we do on Instagram, and can I admit that, like, I don't know what that means. Like,
oh yeah, it's like that feeling of, I think it's a like social psychology thing, but like where you don't, like, you can have all the qualifications in the world. You could have been valedictorian and blah 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 and like the smartest person ever, but you like feel like you're drowning at Harvard or whatever. I don't know. That's probably a horrible description.
or like
of
you
it.
don't deserve the success you have, or like you're a fake or something.
Or like you're sitting here in your shoes, like, holy how am I like responsible for the like livelihood of 30 people in this crazy office and stuff.
Yeah, that's why I said that it doesn't apply. So when you sit where I sit, I have to envision the future that doesn't exist yet, right? Because like somebody walked in here and was looking around and went, did you? And it's like, yeah. Before anything is built, somebody has to see it. And so my job sitting where I sit is I have to see things before they exist. Because how do I know what to build, right? I have to see the office, the layout. What do the rooms look like? What do the office fronts look like? What does the team look like? What do our clients look like, right? Because we don't arbitrarily grow 20% year over year. No, we're intentional about it. So the first part is visioning it out, right? So it's like, so imposter, like, I'm so glad I didn't even know what that was, but like, no, I didn't get here by accident. Nobody faked their way to a leader at Copy and Art. Copy and Art, everybody's on top of everybody. It's very much a family. Like, you could barely be sad and walk through the door and somebody isn't like, hey, you okay today?
Or Annette's just going to like slap happiness across your face because she just exudes that, and it's exhausting. I don't know how she does it, but it's incredible.
Yes, it is. But it's like, so there's nothing that happened here by accident. Everything was strategically planned. So like, it's funny because I'll get the joke, oh, I didn't hear anything from you guys, and now all of a sudden you're winning all these awards. And it's like you're an overnight success. And I'm like, so we've been at this thing for 11 years. Head down for many of them, like not caring if you knew who we were. We just really wanted to do great work. But like, you best believe we planned every part of this, and wait till you see what we're about to do, because we're planning that now, right? So there's no part of anybody here that can last as an imposter, because we're all over everybody's work. And me personally, no. In fact, I see things now that don't exist yet, but they're going to. Like I used to say to people, we're going to have a wellness room that has a Peloton in it and a living wall. And we're like, in your office?
What's a living wall?
What's a living wall? So anyway, if you have it here, like if you had imposter syndrome, it probably lasts you 30 seconds because you got...
No, it lasted like a good 6 months for sure, at least.
While you were learning?
Yeah.
While you're learning, okay. Yeah, but then you have to prove it. Right? Because your manuscripts get reviewed, clients talk to people, then you got to prove your worth. So let's see. So part of the reason we do this, Nate, is because we're trying to give people an inside look at who we are. You know we're growing. You're going to grow your team. Why don't you tell the audience, when you're thinking about like the writers who you want under you, what are you looking for?
I'd say the number one thing is a willing learner and a capable learner. I mean, no one's going to come in here and know like what the heck they're doing. Like I didn't, maybe Christina did, but you know, that's an exception to every rule. I think you can have a dual major in marketing and healthcare sciences and whatever. I don't know if that exists, but I still think everyone comes in here with a learning curve, and I think the ability to adapt and kind of pick up what we do and not really be intimidated by kind of the oversight or the stress or the workload and that it can be, and to be adaptable to just kind of take it on. I mean, like you said, everyone here's smart. You're going to interview thousands of smart people if you want to, but it's kind of, I don't think it's necessarily the baseline intelligence as much as it is the baseline like ability to learn.
Yeah. And desire, right?
Yeah. Well, of course there's the desire. I mean, if you, that's going to be evident like the first time you talk to someone on phone though. Like
that's true.
You're not getting an in-person interview if you don't care.
You'd be surprised.
Maybe you are. I don't know.
No, I mean, people don't last here if they don't have the right like stuff on that side, which feels like the soft benefits of employees here, right? It's like, right. So there's hard skills and soft skills. I think interestingly, clients will tell me like, yeah, we love the like technical side of what you guys can do, but like the way you make our team feel working with you is a differentiator for you.
Yeah, I think we like to, I don't know what the best way to say this is. I feel like we don't take ourselves too seriously, but at the same time, like obviously some of this work is very serious. You're talking about like some like cancer drugs and stuff like that
right.
we work on. So like, of course that is serious and the work can be very serious, but I don't think any like of us as individuals take ourselves too seriously. And I think that kind of shows in especially like the office and the atmosphere, and kind of I do think it can be pretty laid back in a good way, and a way that definitely kind of breeds some creativity and some, I mean, what I think is good work and
great work.
But I think that kind of mindset is, I mean, maybe that isn't true of everyone in the building. I mean, you can't expect everyone to think of things the same way. That would be crazy. But I think as a team as a whole, I think that does show.
So we're going to close with something fun, which also has to do with culture. You know, we're talking about what makes this place special, you particularly, but really the people of the company and maybe what the company is offering in terms of like little perks. So we took a trip that you were part of last year. We don't have to get into specifics, but we did go to an island. We told the world we went to Puerto Rico for our 10-year anniversary. But this year we're going away too. Tell me what you think some of those little things that we do as a team. Tell me what you think it does for like morale culture here.
Yeah, I mean, no one celebrates an 11th anniversary, right?
We might.
We might. I think we are. I think that kind of mindset really transfers over to the employees. I think we live in a world that is very, what can you do for me? I think that's kind of how most employers see things, and in a sense that's fair. I mean, I'm here to deliver you a product, and I'm here so that I can get a paycheck. I mean, so that I can live. But I think sometimes it can kind of get lost in that, where we're just like, I'm delivering for you, you're sending me a paycheck, we each go our separate ways. That's great. And it's I think what's different here is so many places you get the like, oh, we're like a family, it's great. It's like, no, like I actually like feel very close to a lot of my coworkers, and honestly even like some of my bosses, which is kind of crazy. And it feels like people actually care about you, and to see an employer actually like not just like say something like that, but like show it, like in taking us to an all-inclusive resort in the Caribbean, like that's pretty cool, and I enjoy it. And I think everyone kind of likes having a little bit of something to look forward to, like, oh, we're gonna have a crazy fourth quarter and it's gonna be exhausting and maybe there's gonna be some long nights, but like, hey, like this
We're
is on the
gonna be in a
horizon.
pool
That's
bar.
cool.
We're gonna be in a
Yeah.
pool bar in Dominican Republic.
Yeah, I mean, have some margaritas on the beach in December. It's gonna be great. So like, I do think those things matter, and it's not just. It doesn't feel like just a show of appreciation as much as it is kind of just a reinforcement of like values.
That's what it is. I think I will ask myself and ask Christina and Pam and the other leaders here, like, if you could do anything for the team with the team, what would it be? And how would you say thank you? What would you do that's special? And we had never taken an all agency trip. We did it for the 10-year because it's a 10-year. And we also thought it would be a crazy thank you. And we planned the heck out of that party. Big up to Annette, who did all the work. But the Condado Vanderbilt was beautiful and treated us well. Then we figured out we could do it. And we're like, wait. The only thing I think could be better than that was all-inclusive. So nobody ever had to pull out anything for anything. And I think it's nice to say thank you. I think it's nice to mean it. Me particularly as the founder here, I couldn't be more proud. When I walk through the new doors, it's crazy. This expression of you have to pinch yourself. It's like, yes, and I worked on the plans, and I worked with the design team, the interior design team, the furniture team, the contractors, the building, all of that, right? So we knew what we were building, but seeing it and seeing people here and, being in the podcast room with you and being at the coffee bar with someone else, it's like a dream come true. So what do you do when your dreams come true? I think, how do you make somebody else's dream come true? And so you're going to spend a lot of time at work. So my job is to make it about as good an experience as I can figure out, period.
Yeah. I mean, the last thing anyone wants is to be like, oh, crap, it's Sunday night. That sucks.
But that's a lot of people, Nate.
That's and we all have those days. I have those weeks. I'm like, oh, I don't want to go work tomorrow. I'm sure you do too. Maybe you don't. I don't know. You're an exception to every rule. It's not fair. But I do. And,
when I was your age, I did.
But the thing is, I don't have it nearly as much as I used to, and that's cool. And I enjoy that.
Yeah, and work is still work, right? You're going to get paid for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not here for free.
Right.
Like, that's not how it works. But, like, you shouldn't have to dread it. Like, that's not fair to anyone.
Yeah, that's the opposite of what we would ever want. My philosophy is really that you do spend a lot of time at work over the course of your lifetime. And to the extent that it's possible, you should enjoy what you do. And sometimes when the work is like the work, which is maybe not enjoyable in the moment, then at least you can enjoy the environment you're in, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what we're building here. I want to say thank you for helping us, because you're a rising star, and building out your own team and watching you grow has been super exciting for me.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for hiring someone with zero marketing experience at all that I still don't know what you were doing. But
so
cool, it worked out.
Science and writing. Well, and personality. And that might have been kind of the biggest part. But yeah, and thank you guys for joining us today. It's been an amazing time being in the studio. Thank you to the behind the scenes team for making this work. You should look forward to a really exciting calendar for podcast. And thank you, Nate, for joining.
Yeah, you should watch an episode of Always Sunny in Philadelphia. You too, Vanessa, back behind the screen.
All right, so I'm going to do that. That's my homework. And I have no problem doing that. Thank you all, and I look forward to seeing you soon. That's Inside Copy and Art, the podcast.